Welcome back to PHAMCAST, a very special edition talking all about eating disorders, and so excited to have another guest in studio with us to continue this conversation. I'm going to put my glasses on because I want to really give this incredible human the bio and the introduction she deserves. So I am so honored to introduce Dr. Kristy Prouse, a remarkable physician whose journey and expertise in the field of anti-aging and regenerative medicine has transformed the lives of so many, including my own. It is also a privilege to have Dr. Prouse as one of our cherished ambassadors. It's not every day that you get to sit down with someone who not only has an impressive academic and clinical background, but also a deep sense of compassion that truly makes a difference in the lives they care for. I can speak from personal experience when I say that Dr. Prouse's care goes beyond just medical knowledge. She genuinely listens, takes the time to understand, and creates a space where healing is not just physical treatment, but about restoring hope. After struggling for years with my own hormonal health concerns, it was Dr. Prouse who first made me feel heard, cared for, and offered me hope for a healthier future. That feeling of being seen and supported is something I will forever be grateful for. Dr. Prouse's journey began at the University of Western Ontario in 1988, where she completed a BA in psychology, followed by a BSc in genetics and cell biology at the University of Toronto. She then earned her medical degree at Queen's University and completed her obstetrics and gynecology training, where she received the Laparoscopic Surgery Award of Excellence. For over a decade, Dr. Prouse has practiced obstetrics and gynecology in the Greater Toronto Area, but her path didn't stop there. As her own health and well-being were affected by the demands of a high-volume obstetrical practice, Dr. Prouse began to explore new ways of healing and discovered a profound shift in her philosophy of medicine. She trained in anti-aging and regenerative medicine through the University of Southern Florida, a field focused on optimizing the body's natural healing abilities and preventing age-related decline. Her journey of personal healing through exploration of complementary therapies such as naturopathic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, and bioenergetic medicine led her to a place of renewed balance and purpose. Today, she is not only a renowned expert in her field, but also a passionate educator training other healthcare professionals in hormonal health through programs she's developed herself. Dr. Prouse's work as both a clinician and educator had a lasting impact on the lives of so many. Dr. Prouse, thank you for sharing your time and wisdom with us today. I am unbelievably excited to have you here in studio as a friend, as a colleague, and now as a ambassador. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. You always make everybody sound so good.
I tell the truth, and I love to share and elevate other people's story. That's what this movement is all about, working better together, but also sharing authentically and being able to sit down with the two of you, all of us in healthcare from different lenses, and to talk about this from the lens of eating disorders is really, really important. And, Dr. Prouse, let's just dive in right away with, you were the one that introduced me to this wonderful human. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that connection and why it resonated with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly, right? You've heard her story, you've heard her speak, the intelligence behind it, the caring, the compassionate. You can spot people very quickly.
Yes.
When it's a special person and somebody that's making a difference, and also looking to push things forward. I mean, your expression, right? Better together.
Yes.
That's exactly what this is all about. It's a better together.
Right. Mm-hmm. So Kyla, we talked a little bit in the first segment about, the culture and the rituals around food and eating, and thus eating disorders. Can we dive in a little bit more about that? Because I also want to bring in Dr. Prouse and, about how healthcare professionals maybe unknowingly can be contributing to some of these issues without even realizing it. So let's talk a little bit about that.
I think what's important to know about eating disorders is there's still, I think, this belief that they present themselves quite acutely in the form of, let's say, anorexia or bulimia or binge eating disorder. And generally, yes, like that is sort of the landscape. But I feel like the spectrum is so wide and so many rules and rituals are in between all of those different labels. So the way that I like to think about eating disorders is more about the ideas of binging, purging, and restricting. Because I do think on some level, most people have some of those. And so if we open up the conversation and allow us to think more about the ways that everyday people who are not acutely impacted by eating disorders, but who are spending their lives with rules and rituals around food and their body in ways that might not even really make sense, but things that they're totally locked into. Like, for example, you read something that says maybe, you know, you shouldn't eat such and such a category of food. So you start to eliminate that. And I don't even really know if it makes sense for that particular person, but that starts to become a ritual that they must follow. And so that's just an example of different ways that as people, we latch on to certain rules that we need to follow around food in our body. And then the piece is that if you break those rules, then you start to feel shame and guilt and self-hatred, and then that leads to further rules and rituals and further punishment. And really, you know, that is what eating disorders and disordered eating is. That.
And it's very insidious and very deep running. And of course, and then impacts all health, because when we start restricting and we have an impact, I mean, Dr. Prouse, you're one of the people who have taught me the most about cortisol dysregulation and the impact that it has. Well, certainly when we start talking about shame and fear and hatred and all of those things, it impacts our hormones, right?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and you see it happen in different ways at different stages. And I think if one thing that's important to know is from a young woman's perspective, we need at least 18% body fat in order to have a period, and 21% to have a regular period. So when you're talking about stress in that age category and its impact, or whatever restriction that they're going through, it can mess with the hormones on that level. Then where you see it show up later on, and Kyla actually really sort of opened my eyes to looking at this a little bit differently, but in that perimenopause and menopausal time frame where hormones are shifting and weight may become a little bit more of a challenge to manage. Some of these eating behaviors are highlighted at a time that it may not have seemed like it was an issue all the way along, and yet here we are in a different situation, a different time, where we start to highlight some of these behaviors that, again, like maybe we're not even seeing them as being particularly abnormal. But yeah, and it feeds back into the whole cortisol piece of it, and cortisol is a really important foundational hormone, and when that one is messed, it actually really impacts on weight management strategies and whatnot. So oftentimes, counter to what we are reinforced is actually what gets you out of this spiral. Right? It's not about the caloric restriction. It's not about the over-exercising. That oftentimes will backfire.
Right. So culturally, food is right at the front of everything, and the diet culture, and somebody that not only is had an eating disorder but works with people every day. Let's talk honestly about the role that plays in all stages of life, because it's not just our young girls, it's also as people are living longer and women are wanting to be their best all along. Let's talk a little bit about how that plays into this whole insidious way that impacts people's mental and physical well-being and body image.
Well, we're bombarded every single moment, and now especially obviously with social media, you cannot escape the messages, and not only are they compounding messages, but they're also, they work against each other. So I feel like what happens to most people is you just don't really know what you're supposed to do, and I think diet and fitness and health and all of these kinds of bigger ideas become very confusing. You don't know what direction you need to go into, and what works for someone isn't going to work for somebody else. But I think what it does inevitably do is it really teaches us that maybe what we're doing isn't right. I think it takes us further away from ourselves as well. And when we keep looking outside of ourselves to get information about what we're supposed to do, I think we end up leaving ourselves more, and that's when I think we get into a lot of trouble.
I want to really hone in on what you just said, because I think to the average person, they're not in touch with them. When you just said looking elsewhere, but you need to look inward, can you just land on that for a minute from your lens when you were struggling with an eating disorder? What does that actually mean? Because I certainly know, as a person that works with the mind-body connection and have for 33 years, I've seen our bodies being a house for our emotions, and I've seen the release of emotion and trauma physically from a body when I've laid hands on people. So I've seen it firsthand. But it's a concept that's out there. But what does it really mean to go inward and not just be looking outside for answers?
I don't want to underestimate the fact that we might not really be in like with our body. Like, that's a real thing that we do have to address. However, I think that when we focus so much on trying to control the body and change the body, I think what that does is it takes us away from other things in our lives that we might not be able to control, or we might not be able to change, or things that have really impacted us and shaped us that we may not actually even realize the extent of which. And so if we just keep putting our energy towards thinking about the things that we need to do differently to try to look better or look different, whatever it is, we're actually, I think, missing like the root of what's really driving ourselves to want to change. I think like when we head into this place, and Dr. Prouse and I have had these conversations so much around heading into these deeper places where we can actually really start to see ourselves and stop focusing so much on the external and try to really work on what's happening on a deeper level, then we can actually start to see how those kinds of ideologies play out in our relationship with food and our body.
And that's why integrative health in these conversations from a variety of lenses and having a team around you is so important. And this siloed approach, it doesn't surprise any of us that it hasn't worked, right? It doesn't work. And so this is why these conversations are so critically important. What are some things that you can talk about when it comes to these rituals? You've made reference to helping people, like meal support. Can you give some tangible things that the Kyla Fox Recovery is doing to help people do their own inner work, but in support with you?
Well, on a food front, one of the things that we really want to promote is an idea that you can have safety and consistency and regulation with food. And I think when we actually are in relationship with food, and it's not like, I think when you have an eating disorder, food and the body are like right at the forefront. Right. They're right there. They take up all the space. And I feel like recovery is about like putting it in the background where it needs to be. I think in our lives we give so much space to this. So we kind of want to pull it back for people so that you can live and touch in with food, but it's not here anymore.
Right.
So what we
That's
try
a
to
great
do
analogy.
is like, and I think that's, I think culturally it is here, and we kind of want to bring it back.
Yeah.
So what we try to do is build ways that we can work with people regularly throughout each and every day so that they can start to develop regulation and consistency and safety with food. And now what that means from a meal support perspective is, we're a fully virtual center because we want people to be in their lives while they're engaging in their recovery. So they'll pop up, they'll eat their breakfast with us. It's like a 20-minute experience, but it has accountability. It breaks down some of the rules and rituals that they would otherwise not be able to address on their own.
Right.
And that's to no fault of our own. We do need people around us to help move us.
Oh,
yes.
and a sense of community for everyone. I mean, that's really important. You talked about, eating disorders impacting your entire family.
Yes.
So I think, that sense of community is critically important. That's what this whole movement, preventative health movement, is about, is creating a non-judgmental sense of community and belonging and inclusiveness where you can get the help you need, as you so eloquently said, when you need it.
When you need it.
Right.
And you feel less alone when you can do something with the help of other people to help to hold you there. And I think we do need to be held accountable to breaking our patterns until they become more natural for us. Yeah. So meal support is sort of an opportunity to move people through new ways of being throughout each and every day, if that's a part of their comprehensive care.
Yeah. Kristy, doesn't it's interesting how, when you use the word accountable, that can sound really scary. Isn't it incredible how she can say it in such a loving way that it actually makes you want to be part of that?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
There's a unique way that you're doing that. I don't know if you really realize just how that oozes out of you, but accountability is critically important in any addiction and in many aspects of life. But the way she delivers that.
Without the shame.
Yes.
And without the,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, I'm here to help.
And with support, but yet in a way that's, oh no, but this is like, we're holding your feet to the fire when you need to, but we're also here to lovingly support you and give you the resources you need. What's another sort of thing that you do other than meal support that's tangible so people understand what the Kyla Fox Recovery does?
Well, we offer care for the entire person and their loved ones. So in addition, when people think about eating disorders, they think about food and the body. So there's like an extensive nutrition program that happens with meal support and being guided by a nutritionist to really help you slowly but surely break down your rules and rituals. And then there's all the therapeutic work that we offer people. So really engaging with thoughtful clinical therapy individually, but also, if you have a partner, with your partner, because if you're in a relationship, your eating disorder is in that relationship too, or with your parents or with your family members. So couples work, family work, that's all a part of the work, and supporting parents even separately from their children. That's a huge part of the therapeutic work we do. Yeah. And then really focusing on the body as well. So we have a really robust naturopathic lens. And then also, I think, when you have an eating disorder, it's a mental health issue because it lives in your mind. And that really separates your mind from your body. So you lose the ability to even understand cues that your body gives you around, even things like, I'm tired. Well, your body tells you you're tired, and then your brain learns, I'm tired. But when you have an eating disorder clouding your brain, you can't respond to your body's messaging.
And as a massage therapist and the work that I've done, that is the role that we can play. It's remarkable when understanding body cues and bringing people into their body and feeling and respecting and responding to their body. That's what the power of touch does when it's done in a healing therapeutic environment. And that's what's been so, it's been an honor to be able to do that kind of work, and it's powerful. But thank you for recognizing that and the role that physical piece plays, because it's not just about the nutrition.
No.
It's also about that, that body dysmorphia and the mind-body connection, which is why we have to work together. So you're going to stick around, right, both of you, because we've got more to talk about. We're going to come back and we're going to also talk about hormones and the lifespan when it comes to eating disorders, and sort of the thought that everybody has about eating disorders. But we're going to talk and break down some of those myths and really continue our conversation here on PHAMCAST. We'll be right back.